guys, it's me, Halloween Dan. And today I'm trying to do a video that I tried to do on Wednesday, in honesty, but it just wouldn't work. And this video is unusual. It's an unusual video because I'm doing something that I try not to do. I try to keep this a quite positive space, talking about Halloween and just being mostly positive. I don't like being overly negative, and I certainly don't want to fill my own timeline up with negativity. And in honesty, this is a story that I didn't even know I wanted to tell. I wasn't sure I wanted to tell this story. I've gone back and forth about it for a long time now, and I've written it off many times. In fact, when this wouldn't upload the other day, I was like, it's a sign that I shouldn't be trying to upload it. And the reason I've gone back and forth about it is because this story is not a nice one. It's not a fun one. It's about something that happened to me that I wish hadn't happened to me, and that I wouldn't wish for it to happen to anyone else either. Where through no fault of my own, I was put in a position where I had to defend myself and my love of Halloween and Halloween itself all in one hit to a complete stranger. I also think that there could be some contentious bits to this story, and there could be some of my opinions that maybe touch a nerve with a few people. But it's a risk I'm willing to take because I don't know why, I don't know what it is about what's going on in the world right now, but I just feel like somehow I need to get this story out there, off my chest. I just need to get this out of the way and done. So that's what I'm doing. So I will just say before I get too far into this story, I hope that I don't cause any offence here. I really, really do. I don't want to cause offence. I don't want to upset anybody. It's just that this thing happened to me and I found it offensive. I don't find many things offensive. And I hope that, well, after I finish telling this story, I hope that the majority of you who've actually taken the time to listen to me waffle on agree with what I said, agree with my standpoint, and just back me, just this much. So this story begins in the place where I work. Many of you will know, I've spoken about it before. I work in a little hardware store in the village that I live in. Been there a long time, and I've been there a long time. And I basically manage a section of this store, a department, if you will. And I love it, I really do. I enjoy my time there. But like any retail environment, the most challenging aspect of that environment is the customers. Just occasionally. Just some of them push your buttons a little. But this particular instance that I'm about to talk about, this particular customer didn't just push the button, she like smashed it. You know, this was pretty much the most horrendous interaction with any customer I'd ever had to have. So I was in my department, it was about April last year, it was a warm sort of a day, so I'd taken off my fleece, and I had the guns out! Oh, yeah!
Give her 2 tickets to the gun show.
Sorry, I'll never refer to my arms as guns ever again. They're more like water pistols, in honesty, aren't they? But many of you will have noticed, and I have talked about before, I have a Halloween-themed tattoo on this arm. Most people, if they say anything about it at all, are just curious or kind of say, that's a cool tattoo, and that's the end of it. But this was not one such occasion. So I was minding my own business when I become aware that there is a customer in my department of the shop. So being the complete professional that I am, I of course asked the question, can I help you at all? To which this particular lady just kind of looks at me curiously and goes, I'm not sure. Which is a very weird way to answer that question, but at the same time, not completely unusual. Maybe she just needed a bit more time to figure things out for herself. So I'm like, okay, don't worry, and I carry on with what I was doing. 5 or 10 minutes later, this lady's still hovering about, clearly doesn't know what she's trying to find. So I ask again, are you sure I can't help you? To which she then answers in an even more peculiar way. I think I could do with some help, but I'm not sure you're the one to help me. Really weird way of saying that maybe she needs someone else to help her. it's a shop full of lots of different things. There's lots of different departments, so maybe I'm not the right person to help her. So I say, well, can I just ask what you're after? And she says, I'm after a stud detector, which is in my department. Oh, I can show you where they are. But before I can go any further, she halts me and goes, I'm sure you can, but what I mean is, I'm not sure I want any help from you.
What?
Oh. I realise that she's actually doesn't want my actual help. And I'm looking at this lady trying to figure out how I've offended her, how I know her, but I don't know who this woman is. So I asked the question, I'm sorry. How have I offended you? I'm sorry if I have, I didn't mean to. Can I ask what I've done wrong? And it's then that her eyes kind of fall on my tattoo. And she says, it's not really what you've done, but it's the evil symbology you've decided to put on your arm. And I was like, evil symbology? And I look at my tattoo and I'm like, you mean my tattoo? I said, do you not like tattoos? And she said, I don't particularly like tattoos, but I certainly don't like tattoos that advertise Satanism. And I was taken aback. I was like, what? And I sort of laughed, a little nervously to be fair, and said, oh, it's not a satanic symbol, it's a Halloween tattoo. I like Halloween. And she goes, I'm aware it's a Halloween tattoo, but as a Christian, anything that has anything to do with paganism, which I believe Halloween does, is evil and satanic, and in my opinion, should be stopped. And anyone who covers themselves with symbology that supports this satanic thing has clearly fallen by the wayside, has clearly fallen into shadow. And as a Christian, I try to keep myself in the light where I can, which is why I'm not sure I want your help. And that was a theological discussion I was not expecting that day. So I kind of stutter. I don't really know what to do. I feel myself get a little bit trembly, like cross and sort of, I don't know, just not really very happy with what's just been said to me. But from somewhere inside my brain, it was like a pre-thought out script of things just suddenly emerged into the forefront of my head and came spewing out my mouth. And I said something along the lines of this. It was probably a bit more broken up. But I said, I'm sorry you feel that way, but Halloween isn't satanic. And I don't celebrate it because it is. Halloween is based on a much more ancient feast festival that was All Hallows Eve, and before that it was Samhain. If you know anything about the history of Halloween, which I do, there was a period of time when the Christian church even endorsed it and had it as part of a larger feast festival, the Saints' Days, or the Hallowed Days, and that was All Hallows Eve, the eve before the Hallowed Days. So it isn't an evil thing, a satanic thing, and even if you do believe that Halloween is linked to a more ancient pagan festival, paganism and all of that sort of stuff predates Christianity and therefore predates the concept of hell and the devil. So how could it be satanic if it predates the creation of Satan? And she clearly wasn't expecting this rebuttal. She clearly wasn't expecting me to have an answer for her, but she clearly wasn't backing down and said, well, that's where I disagree. So the Bible clearly says that anything pagan is evil and should be cast aside. So anyone who celebrates Halloween and anyone who thinks that it's good, and certainly anyone who marks their body with that kind of symbology, therefore, even if they don't mean to be, are satanic and you're worshipping the devil and you really should stop. And I said, like I say, I know I'm not going to change your mind, but I don't particularly believe in hell or the devil. I was raised a Christian, I celebrate Christian events, but I don't really believe in hell and the devil and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't make sense that I would be celebrating this in a satanic manner when I don't believe in all that stuff in any way, shape or form. It makes no sense to me. It isn't satanic. I could tell you a million different things that prove it's not, but I'm not going to bother. I said, all you need to know is it's a really fun thing that we enjoy to do. Me and my kids enjoy doing it. We raise money for charity, and that's all there is to it. To which she then goes, oh, I find that so sad that you are actually leading your children down this same dark path.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Oh, no. No, you did not just go there. You did not just bring my kids into it. So I went, I'm not leading my kids down any dark path. Like I say, it's a very innocent event that we just enjoy to celebrate. My kids love it. I love it. There's nothing satanic or dark about it. If you want to believe that it is, that's your prerogative. but I believe that it isn't. And we don't do anything that's dark or satanic, and my kids are going to be perfectly fine. I'm not leading them to the gates of hell, though I think you probably think I am. I certainly am not. And I was going to leave at that point, and then she said, can I just ask what the charity is you support? And I said, well, like I said, we do a big display and we raise money for a charity. It's St. Luke's Cheshire Hospice, if you must know. And she went, oh, a Christian hospice. Oh, if it was me who ran that hospice, I would refuse your money. And I went, well, the strange thing about hospices is they're more concerned with helping people who are dying, who are on their last breath of life. They're less concerned about where the money comes from. So I don't think they're that bothered that I'm doing it through Halloween. In fact, I know they're not, because they support me every single year. And to be quite honest with you, can I just say, this is one of the real ironies that really makes me kind of annoyed. Aren't you supposed to turn the other cheek? As a Christian, aren't you supposed to love thy neighbour and turn the other cheek and not judge people? And yet here you are being probably the most judgmental person I've ever met. She looked at me a bit astounded, like, how dare you say that to me? But anyway, I can clearly see we're not going to agree here, and it doesn't matter. You have your opinion, I have mine. The stud detectors are down there, and I'll leave you to it. And I marched off into the back of the shop somewhere. I spent about 10 minutes in the back room, really cross, really frustrated. And in honesty, I wanted to tell everybody who would listen all about this lady and what she dare say to me and how terrible of a person she was. But I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing that it had annoyed me, so I didn't. I stayed quiet and I waited for her to leave. I didn't tell another living soul. In fact, this is the first time I've told this story. Partly because this has happened to me once before, though not quite as bad as this. But also because even though I know this woman won't know anything about what's going on in my life beyond that moment, I didn't want this woman to have the satisfaction of knowing she'd riled me up and annoyed me. It wasn't worth it in many ways. But ever since that moment, I'm not gonna lie, this has been something that's weighed on me in a strange kind of way. To know that there are still people out there who think this way really did annoy me. And I think part of the reason why it annoys me is you have to kind of know a little bit of something about the UK. Here in the UK, we have this, maybe it's a stereotype that people in North America, and particularly the US, are more religious than we are. And you talk more openly about your faith and your relationship with God and all that kind of stuff. Here in the UK, it's not very common. You'll never hear someone talking about their faith or their religion or their relationship with God. You'll never hear people say that. I think partly because the UK is a more secular society, which you can agree with or not agree with, but it is. And people, though they celebrate Christian events, generally aren't practicing Christians and kind of just get on with their day-to-day lives. But the other reason I think is because talking about faith in a sort of big way and talking to other people about your faith and relationship with God is kind of seen in British culture as a little bit presumptuous, maybe even a tiny little bit rude. It's just not a discussion topic. It's just something people don't talk about in day-to-day life. Now, if you do, and you're one of those people who loves to talk about your faith and your relationship with God, that's not me having an attack. That's not me having a go. That's okay. It's perfectly fine to do that. It's just that generally it's not something you'll hear in day-to-day conversation here in the UK. In all my years, I don't think I've ever had a particularly deep religious conversation with anybody, except for this crazy woman. Which is what makes that conversation so peculiar. That I'm in my workplace, I can't really go anywhere, I can't really escape. And this woman decides, because I've got a tattoo of something she doesn't particularly like, she has to share her opinion from her religious standpoint that I'm an evil, bad person who's doing evil, bad things that really needs to change their ways. This isn't 1605, you know. This sort of stuff should have finished a long time ago. And I think that's the other thing. I am a little bit of a hippie in that I believe that we should all be finding ways to get along with each other more. We should be tearing down the differences that hold us apart, and we should all be finding ways of coming closer together. It's one of the reasons why I love Halloween, because it doesn't matter where you come from in the world, it doesn't matter what your religion or your background is or your nationality, none of that matters as long as you love this night We're all the same. We all love it in about the same way. Yeah, we celebrate it differently from one another, but we still love this thing. It brings us together. It unites us under this one creepy Halloween flag. And I think that's why it's so special to me. Everybody's welcome. Being the bit of a hippie that I am, I like to think from time to time that we're progressing as a society, that we are coming closer together, that our differences don't mean as much as maybe they once upon a time did. And then stuff like what's going on in the world right now make me go, actually, that's not true. We are still very focused on our differences. We are still dividing ourselves more and more and more as the years go on. And that is really quite sad. I read history books about witch trials and things like that, and I think, well, at least we don't do that kind of stuff anymore. At least we've progressed past that kind of stuff. And then you meet people, like I met that lady a year ago, and you realise that actually those people are still out there. That if things were a little bit different, she'd have been accusing me of heresy, tying me to a stake and lighting a match. That actually those crazies are still out there. Those judgmental people are still out there judging other people for just being who they are. People like this lady need to chill out. And if that's your opinion, it's okay to have it, but maybe just keep it to yourself. I'm not saying that all religious people or openly religious people are like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. And I hope I haven't offended you by telling this story and giving my opinion on it. It's just that did seem a bit ironic, that you're supposed to be the most forgiving, and yet apparently you're the least. But that's it. That's my story. And it has frustrated me for nearly a year. I hope that some of you agree with me and agree with what I said, agree with how I handled the situation. I hope I haven't offended anyone. Like I said, I really hope I haven't offended anyone. I don't want to offend anyone. If you're a religious person, an openly religious person, that's okay with me. I'm not having a go at you or saying you shouldn't be. I'm not that way, and most British people aren't, but it's okay to be that. It's just, don't be like this woman, I suppose, is the message. Don't be like her. Anyway, guys, thanks for sticking with me today. Thanks for backing me up on this. And I will see you in the next one. Keep it spooky. Bye.